Everyone, welcome back to another episode of Delimio Academy on YouTube. This is Delicia, aka Deli the Explorer, your resident hypedia, and your grad school fairy godmother. If you're new here, you can check out my credentials below. I want to talk about how to pay for grad school. So if you have worked with me in the past, drop below your testimonial and what you loved working with me about. I support first generation, typically underrepresented students on how to get into grad school, undergrad, apply to jobs and careers that support their dreams and aspirations, as well as study abroad opportunities. So today I want to talk about how to pay for grad school. This is one of the biggest questions I get on TikTok, and I wanted to explain a little bit more than a carousel post. So let's begin. Here I am when I graduated from NYU in 2024. So the first hype dia consejo is work in higher education. What does that mean? Work at a college or a university that has tuition reimbursement benefit. If you're first gen and this is the first time you're hearing this, that's okay. I'll explain it. Tuition reimbursement is when you work for a university and part of your benefits is that they will pay for any courses you take. What does that look like? Certificates, grad school, for your master's, or even pay for your PhD. It depends on the institution. So this really, really depends on where you work. What can you work with in higher education? You can work in the legal department, in the marketing department, in the advising department, in the project management space. There are so many different jobs that you can do in an institution that sometimes we don't realize how a university functions. You can work in human resources, you can work in recruitment and admissions, and we can do a whole other video on all the different jobs that you can work with at a university. Sometimes students don't realize that a university is actually a big employer in their community. If you don't have a big university close by, look at their community colleges. That's another option. They also have great benefits. So, tuition reimbursement, like I said, literally any university role, check the university website. I put Fairfield University as an example because that's where I went to my undergrad. Fairfield, this has nothing to do, it's not associated with Fairfield University. This video is solely for educational purposes. Take what you hear with a grain of salt, leave the rest, take what you need and leave the rest. Like I said, I went to Fairfield University in my undergrad and I went to New York University for my graduate program. So I will use them as the examples because they're my own lived experience. If you went somewhere else, want to go somewhere else, drop below where you are and see how I can help you with that state or that county or that university. So, like I said, hyptia consejo number one, work in higher education, work at a university, work at a state college. And for context, this is in the United States. We're not talking about universities abroad. We're talking about specifically the United States. Hyptia consejo number two, get a PhD, which is fully funded in the United States. Through the PhD program, sometimes you will either get an MA or an MS along the way, depending on the program. So here is another example of funding, financial aid. 1 year master's in American Studies, public humanities, PhD in American Studies. You usually can choose between those two at this institution. I use Brown University as an example because they have a great program in American Studies. And that was something I was considering as well. So you will get a master's in American Studies or Public Humanities throughout the program. So if I were just to apply for this, I'll get a second master's through the program that is fully funded by the institution. So how does a PhD work? It is usually funded through an endowment, which is through the university, or federal funding. I know federal funding is changing a lot. We are in the year 2025 in this video when we're making it. So it is changing. I don't want to ignore that or negate that. It is changing, but typically still today, if you're applying for deadlines due within the next 2 months, you will be fully funded. Check their website and talk to their financial aid counselor. So that's Hype Dia Consejo number two on how to get your grad school fully funded or how to pay for it. Consejo number three, Hype Dia Consejo number three is getting a graduate assistantship, either for part-time or full-time students. You work in a specific department and support the needs of that department and help with programming or administrative staff. Sometimes it's your whole tuition and then you have to pay for housing or figure out housing. or it pays for housing and you have to figure out tuition, or it pays for both. It really depends on your institution and the structure. For example, at Fairfield University, if you do an MS, their MS in family counseling, for example, and you do your graduate assistantship, that graduate assistantship can pay for housing or it can pay for your tuition. It's an exchange. So, graduate assistantship is labor exchange for a stipend. It really depends on the university and the department structure on how it's set up. For example, at NYU, I was a graduate assistant, graduate coordinator at a little Latinx project, and that was a stipend and salary part-time money that was distributed every week as a staff member on their team. It was a part-time role. Then I also had a graduate assistantship as an adjunct professor, not professor title, but an adjunct faculty member, that I received a stipend and a weekly payment dollar amount. The NYU has a collective bargaining agreement and it has a union for adjunct staff. So we actually had great benefits, right? Out of that, I also got dental as being a graduate student there and working as a graduate assistant, free dental, and healthcare was also part of the tuition, right? So that's a benefit and a perk. And it's something I will add, if when you get a PhD, your medical health insurance and dental insurance is covered under your PhD program, through that stipend that you are getting. Now, Hype Dia Consejo number 4 is research assistantship. You are a research assistant, which is different than a graduate assistant, because a graduate assistant works in a department and works with administration and program management. A research assistant supports a faculty member with their research, their specific research, and you develop and support them. And that also has a different payment structure depending on the institution, depending on the professor and their tenure level. It really, really depends, but this is another way to pay for grad school, and it's important to look at these types of titles and positions when you're at an institution going through graduate school. These are opportunities available to graduate students, as well as undergrad. You can also apply for research assistant and different types of assistantships. At the undergraduate level, it's different. I'm speaking specifically at the graduate level right now. I can make another video about undergrad if you need support in that. So, again, there are 4 hype dia consejos on how to pay for grad school. So, like I said, you can also work in grad school. You can do a graduate assistantship, a teaching assistant, housing, tuition, and health insurance is paid through that program. You can do like an MBA full-time or part-time, an MA, an MSW, whatever your pay structure and your needs are, a little bit more flexible. So, what's next? If you're interested in grad school, you have to get organized, get organized, get organized. What does that look like? Starting to write your personal statement, your statement of purpose, your research proposal, all of these types of questions in the writing process. I have another video about this specifically, so I'm not going to go in detail. I'll link it below, and you can watch that video that explains this entirely. Okay. Like I said, get organized, Excel spreadsheet, download, get your dates and deadlines in place, research your program requirements, network with admissions counselor, as well as the professors that you want to work with. Start getting those recommendation letters in. Like I said, I have a video specifically about this. I will link it below and you can watch that if you need more information. So, as always, like, share, and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop them below. I would like to know, what university are you interested in applying? Do you have any follow-up questions? What are you interested in majoring in or getting your PhD or your master's in? And then if you have any personal questions, I won't respond publicly. Please DM me and let's set up a personal consultation. We can do a 15-minute free chat, and then we can discuss if any of my services can support you on your journey. Applying to graduate school is a rigorous process, and it could take up to a year to really hone in on all the different parts of it. So, for this reason, to honor my work and my expertise and my experience, there is an energetic exchange of dollars, right? We need to exist in this world. So I need some money to survive and exist. So we can do a personal consultation for 15 minutes, an energetic exchange, and then we can figure out if working with me is the right fit. All the details are going to be on my website. Make sure you check it out and follow for more. I have a lot of content that I share online um, through Daily Lingo Academy, the YouTube channel, the Instagram page. You can follow me on TikTok, Daily the Explorer, LinkedIn, and I also have a podcast called First Gen Homies, where I interview people in the industry all across the board: sports industry, higher education, business, lawyers. We have so many cool people that are in different spaces sharing their journey and experiences. So make sure you follow the podcast for up-to-date interviews. And let me know if you have any questions. Like, share, subscribe, and drop them below. Again, this is a video for educational purposes. Take what you like and leave the rest. Whatever helps you and leave the rest. Take everything with a grain of salt. You're on your own journey, your own path. Follow what you believe is true to you. And if I can be part of that journey and supporting you, I'm happy to be there. Have a great day. Until the next one. Bye. Ciao.